And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Atreus. I'm coming at you live from the ATL, bringing you more pop culture news, commentary, and analysis. We talk about games, movies, TV shows, sometimes sports, whatever is popular during the time. And today, we got to talk about Paul Tassi, all right? He calls you the worst corners of the internet. Let's get into it after the drop.
What makes you think that I'm an answer if you ain't mine? Even if you call me.
All right, team, y'all already know what to do. Go ahead and hit the like button, the red subscribe button. If you are enjoying content, make sure you hit the notification bell as well. Then go down into the description. Follow me on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever the case may be. Let's go ahead and get into the news. Now, I had a little, it wasn't a back and forth, but Paul Tassi, I'm sort of a fan of Paul Tassi. I've watched Paul Tassi on some gaming shows. He works at Forbes. He writes articles, and he puts out this article. As She-Hulk season 1 ends, its review bombing is unlike anything the MCU has seen via Forbes. And I responded to it and I said, "So you're getting out of hand with these ridiculous articles. Now I have to make a video roasting you because the virtue signaling is obnoxious at this point." And his reply is, "It's literally mad." And what he's saying here is that it's being review bombed. I'm not denying that the show is being review bombed. That's not what, and that's why I didn't really respond to it, because I could tell, like, one thing I hate doing is going back and forth on the internet with people. Not that he would have replied anyway. He probably only, I'm sure he got better stuff to do. He probably only responded to me. He was probably only going to respond to me once anyway. So this isn't really a back and forth. But I didn't respond to it because, you get into a back and forth with people on the internet and then they misinterpret what you say or misunderstand or just take what you say out of context, and it's quite annoying. But we're going to get into his article, though. And I want to preface that by saying nobody's denying that it's being review bombed, right? Nobody's denying that. It's the reason for the review bombing, all right? Now, let's go ahead and do this, right? People don't usually review stuff unless it's polarized, unless they feel strongly about whatever service or product or whatever the case that they received. For example, if you go to a restaurant and you really enjoyed the experience, right? And you really enjoyed your waitress and you really enjoyed the food and you feel so good about it that you want to let the company know, you go on and you do an online review and you give them a 5-star review and you brag and you write a whole paragraph about what you loved. What you don't do is you give them a middling review. Nobody does that shit. I'm sorry. Only people who get paid to do that shit. If you feel strongly against something, like maybe you had an Uber ride and the fucking car was trash and the Uber driver was trash or something like that, you immediately go and give them a 1-star review. Nobody sits there and is like, "Well, I'll give them an extra star for this or I'll take away a star." No, you either gonna give them a 5-star review or a 1-star review because that's how people react. Most people aren't nuanced enough to go and give a 3-star review or a 6-star review, or whatever the case may be. So it should come as no surprise, and you'll see the chart here, that most people who reviewed this either gave a 10-star review or a 1-star review. To act as though that review bombing is just a bunch of morons going to 1-star, or because the funny thing is nobody talks about the review bombing the positive way, right? Right, because this show's a 10 out of 10. Yeah, right. It's definitely not a 10 out of 10. I would argue that this show is more in the 4 to 5, all right? In the 4 to 5 range. That's why I would argue if I was reviewing this, I don't have time to be leaving reviews on IMDb. But if I was to leave a review, it's going to be in the 4 to 5 range. Is it the worst show ever made? No. But as I said before, most people aren't nuanced enough to go and leave the accurate review. They're either going to feel very strongly in a positive way, a la 10-star reviews that it doesn't deserve, or they're gonna feel extremely strong in a negative way, a la 1-star reviews that it probably doesn't deserve. What we're not gonna argue here though is that people are review bombing it because they're misogynist, that they hate women. So anyway, let's get into his article. She-Hulk, self-aware and fourth wall breaking as it is, successfully predicted how much backlash the show would get, often quoting haters of the series almost verbatim within the show itself, as Jennifer navigates the tricky waters of being both a female Hulk and one that doesn't want to be much of to do much with superheroing. I have seen a lot of Marvel controversies in my time, and yet the backlash to She-Hulk is unlike anything the MCU has ever seen, mainly due to its taking on misogyny and comic book movie trolls directly, and those slaps in the face have caused angry fans to fight back the only way they know how, with angry internet comments and 0 out of 10 one-star reviews. Okay. So let's tackle that first. How else do you expect people to fight back against stuff they don't ask for? See, you keep bringing up misogyny, right? But did you forget that the Inhuman show was also terrible? Matter of fact, let's go and look at the reviews for the Inhuman. Well, won't you look at that? 43%. Was this review bombed? Hold on. Because I want to look at IMDb. Most people rated this 5 out of 10. I don't know who these goofballs were that rated this 10 out of 10. That's ridiculous. But you see a lot of 1 stars. That's 11%. Most people rated it 15.4%. Most people rated it a 5, right? Ages. I mean, this show is terrible. So I would say that this show is on par with Inhumans. It's just that bad, right? And adding to this show is attacking the fan base. So anyway, let's continue reading. Every time I bring this up, everyone wants to debate the definition of review bombing, as maybe the show is just bad. While badness is a subjective opinion, it is not. Though professional critics do not agree in this case, is the show twice as bad as literally everything the MCU has produced? I'd argue no. I'd argue yes, it is. When we talk about what are the top 3 worst Marvel projects, some people talk about Thor: The Dark World. We know Inhumans is one of them. What's another show? People talk about the Eternals is really bad. The Eternals is not that fucking bad. I'd argue that Mrs. Marvel, Thor: The Dark World, who else is really bad? Hell, you might be able to put Thor: Love and Thunder up there, but She-Hulk is in the bottom 3 of the top worst MCU projects, right? Iron Man 3 was bad, but it wasn't that bad. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really a big fan of the Ant-Man projects, but they aren't bad projects. All of the Captain America movies were good. I mean, which projects were as bad as She-Hulk? Terrible CGI, contradicting its own message. One decent law scene in the show based around law. Not funny. Not even close to being funny. But maybe it's funny to a guy like Paul Tassi. I don't know. Again, there's been nothing like before. Even with the past controversial properties like Mrs. Marvel and Captain Marvel, again, fighting back against accusations of being woke, or in Captain... Mrs. Marvel was a terrible show. You can't even tell me who the fucking villain was. All right? You can't even tell me where her powers came from. You can't tell me what it has to do with anything. And I wanted Mrs. Marvel to be good. It was terrible. Captain Marvel was a boring movie. She had no conflict. She was more powerful than everybody. You knew she was going to win every fight she was in. Brie Larson had the same face throughout the entire movie. What are we talking about? There was no acting. Samuel L. Jackson had better acting with a CGI face the entire time. On top of that, the reason why Captain Marvel got review bombed is because she came out and attacked over 60% of the audience before the movie even came out. I don't know if y'all got selective memory or what, but last I checked, I don't remember a bunch of women and gay people and other minorities walking around in the 60s, 70s, and 80s with comic books. I'm sorry. The people who made these characters popular are men, more specifically white men, because they were the ones buying the goddamn comics. And now that we're making movies about them and shit, what y'all are trying to do is say, we don't need you anymore, white men. Okay, well, the white men are saying, okay, well, fuck you. I won't go and see your shit. And then on top of that, because you polarized me, you made me feel some type of way, I will spout negativity about your project. The fuck are y'all talking about? But you keep bringing up misogyny. Oh, they hate women. Why can't you do a female project without saying men suck? The fans suck. Black Widow didn't do that. The first Wonder Woman movie didn't do that. And they performed well. But you keep bringing up misogyny. Paul Tassi, get the fuck out of here. You're lazy. I'm a fan, but you're fucking lazy. I'm sorry to tell you. The numbers don't lie, though. She-Hulk is in a league of its own with how much hatred has been mounted against it. On IMDb, She-Hulk has a 5 out of 10 score, with a full 35.9% of reviews being 1 star. That's more than even Mrs. Marvel, which suffered similar early bombing, but that's now a 6.2 out of 10, with 19.6% of the reviews being 1 star. All right. No other MCU series or movie has a lower score on IMDb than She-Hulk, and it's not particularly close. IMDb helpfully breaks this down so we can see that this is 41,000 males giving it an average score of 4.9, and 5,600 females giving it an average score of 6.8, nearly 24 points high. Same is true over on Rotten Tomatoes. I previously ranked all MCU, whatever. She-Hulk has a 36% audience score, 44% lower than Mrs. Marvel, and 9% lower than Captain Marvel. The movie that was a review bomb so hard, Rotten Tomatoes had to change, he says chance, but change its policies about audience scores. But while you have to verify you've seen a movie to review it on a site, you don't have to do that with a TV show. This is literally the definition of something being review bombed. I know that term gets thrown around a lot, but this is a textbook case. She-Hulk actually seems to relish the fight, and the fact that they call out the trolls directly on the show is one major reason this is happening at all. But I do not think it will affect the prospects of the series for a likely season 2. And if it does, well, then Marvel has larger problems on their hands if they're going to listen to the worst corners of their fan base. So that's what Paul Tassi thinks about you. Well, about all of us. If you don't like this show, you are the worst corners of the fan base. Even though you made the fucking show, you made the character, because last I checked, you had to actually like the character when they made the character in order for this character to get popular, right? I'm gonna be honest with you, I think She-Hulk is a corny character. I think any gender swapped version of a character is corny and uncreative. But I'm not a comic book guy. You guys are. So for whatever reason, y'all like She-Hulk, that's fine. But even though you made this character popular enough to get her own TV show, you are the worst corner of the fan base because you don't like the show. Think about this. She-Hulk was a character that male comic book readers universally loved. I don't know why, but y'all universally loved her. They decided to make a show about her. But instead of making the character that you love, that you made popular, they made a character that hates men and shits on you for liking her. But you're the worst corner of the fan base. I'm just the messenger. I'm just letting you know what it is. This is what these people think about you. So y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. You're the worst corner of the fan base, even though you made these characters. Right. Paul Tassi, you full of fucking shit.
Let's go. Hey. Beat that thing down like you started attention, my baby. You had some plans with your man, just tell him to cancel, my baby.